Hey, welcome to Campaign 1. We're going to talk Session 4. Today it's communication and broadly spoken, but more specifically the USP and the value proposition. So what is that? Here we are in week 4 already. How about that? Yep. Okay, value proposition. Why should the prospect buy from you? What's the proposition you're making? A brand's value proposition is a statement of the overall functional, emotional, self-expressive benefits delivered by the brand that provide value to the customer. Last week we had a guest talk about the way advertising actually reaches higher into the mindset, so to speak, at a higher level to connect more appropriately and deeply with consumers. That's what we're trying to do here. An effective value proposition should lead to the whole idea of a brand customer relationship. It should drive purchase decisions and top of mind. So a broad statement of the overall value of the brand is something we like to call the USP. Unique selling proposition, something we alluded to in the session 2. Now, this is kind of a complex thing, but let's just decipher it here. Up in the upper right there, it says there's little difference between the USP and the value proposition. The USP is shorter, more likely to be used for creative development. The value proposition is more detailed, used to articulate the more nuanced aspects of the brand. So let's look at two brands, one being the M&M's famous M&M's bag way back to 1941, and of course the Apple iPhone, which goes to 2007. That's not that long ago. What is that simple statement about the M&M's? Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. That's how I should buy that. It's candy. I love chocolate, but it melts in my hands. That's what chocolate did way back in 1941 because they didn't have M&M's. So that was a brand new statement. It's still a good one, even with parents with kids and that sort of thing. Over on the other side, we have the Apple iPhone, which goes back 2007. A little more difficult, a little more complex. Why should I buy? Well, experience the power of innovation with a device that seamlessly integrates into your life, offering cutting-edge technology, premium design, and an ecosystem of apps and services to enhance your daily activities. Two different kinds of statements. We tend to think of the one over on the left maybe a USP because that goes back to the 50s, that whole terminology. Over on the right, it's much more of what we tend to be a little more sophisticated, calling a value proposition. But generally, both of these guide overall campaign strategy and the messaging across multiple touch points. Laddering. Now, why do we say laddering? What's that all about? How do we get to the proposition? That's what it's all about. A quality research technique, and it's used in marketing and consumer behavior studies. So we try to get people together and ask them questions. Its purpose, of course, of laddering is to uncover the underlying values, emotions, and motivations behind the consumer preferences and behaviors. So they focus, when you're running a laddering interview, you focus on why questions that move from product attributes to functional benefits, up the line to emotional benefits, and finally to core values. And the whole benefit is that it informs campaign development. It gives us a deeper understanding. Laddering provides a more profound understanding of the target audience, enabling more targeted and effective campaigns, not just some simple kind of a product differentiation, but something that means a little bit more. It also it creates resonance. By aligning with core values, campaign messages are more likely to resonate deeply. And then finally, of course, the main function is it differentiates. We understand the complete ladder helps in identifying unique aspects that can set a brand apart in its value proposition. This is a hypothetical laddering interview, and you can look at that later. But essentially, I've kind of copied down here a brief track that a typical interview might take. Essentially, getting to those points over there in the box: product attribute, advancing cushioning technology, for example, in a sneaker, functional benefit, and moves on up. Let's look at that a little deeper here. So that's your interview. Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a series of why questions to move from that low-end product attributes up the ladder to product benefit, to emotional benefit, and to core values. Now, at the very bottom of the product attribute, these sneakers have advanced cushioning technology. That's a differentiation point, right? What does that mean? What's the benefit? It reduces impact on my joints and makes it easier to run, walk, or whatever I'm going to do. What's the emotional benefit? Well, I feel more comfortable. I feel like I'm caring for myself. So reach in a little deeper into the psyche. And then finally, there are core values. I hold core values, and those sneakers hold the core value of health and self-care. Over on that right box, it says encourages deeper analysis of consumer motivations and helps in crafting value propositions and campaign messages that connect on both rational and emotional levels. So we understand that box describes this whole concept of laddering. That's what we're trying to get to. So when we complete this journey now, when we talk about laddering as a means to get there, and we start at the bottom, not just what a product does, but why it matters to the customer, and we move on up to understanding how these features benefit the customer practically, in application, so to speak. And then finally to the emotional, reveals the emotional and psychological factors influencing consumer decisions. Well, how do I feel about this? I feel like I'm taking care of myself. Now, that yields core values, and that's what we're always trying to get to with brands, is core values. By understanding emotional and psychological factors, we can then align messages to the core values, and that brings in the creative brief that we discussed a couple of weeks ago now. And if we work through that creative brief to understand the opportunity, who we're trying to reach, the audience, and on down through that process, we can eventually then actually have marching orders, so to speak, to create some content like we saw previously from our guest last week. So the content is really what we're going for, whether it's an outdoor advertising or it's something we're going to air on the web or it's a TV spot or radio or whatever it happens to be. So what do we do now? This is our assignment. This is our first number one assignment. This is a simple thing to do. Not going to kill you. Choose a favorite brand of yours. I don't care what it is. You pick one. Work through the ladder. That's slide 9 on this deck, by the way. And identify a statement for each stage of the ladder for your brand. The product attributes, the benefits, the emotional benefits, and the core values. 3, complete the creative brief. And you have that in your files from previous weeks. And then work from your creative brief to the next step of designing creative content for your brand. I don't care what the content is. You can do an ad, you can do a billboard, whatever you choose. Number 5, include all 3 of those items in your submission: the ladder, the brief, and the content. And then submit it before October 9th, and you're all good. I hope that this will give you some idea of how the process works. That's what we're really doing here in this course. We're trying to understand how the process works. And the best way to do that is to practice it. So thank you very much for your time. See you around campus.